Kerry Byrne in our Pulse Network studios, Cold Hard Football Facts. Weekly, we do it here. We partner up and bring you the content that you need. If you want to enjoy your football more, maybe you're a bettor. Well, this segment is about betting. Kerry, in full disclosure, and Cold Hard Football Facts will come out with their recommendations later in the week. Thursdays
we publish all our
Well, you have to do Thursdays now. You have Thursday
we have no
games
choice
all
now.
the time, right?
Yeah. But every week, sometimes Wednesday, but definitely by Thursday, all our picks are out.
A lot of intriguing games this weekend because there's still a lot of playoff positioning and teams fighting for it. I think this is definitely one of the most intriguing games. The San Diego Chargers are going to be at Detroit, 4 o'clock on Sunday on CBS. And again, this is Christmas Eve day. There's 3 games that day. San Diego at Detroit on a Saturday afternoon. Very interesting. San Diego needs a lot of help. They're 7-7, but they've righted the ship big time. They started 4-1. They've lost 6 in a row. Then they've won 3 in a row, including beating the Baltimore Ravens. Beating them.
Beat them up. I mean, humiliated them. We do a Cold Out Football Facts as a segment with Yahoo Sports called Epic Fail. It's the week's biggest failure. And that Baltimore defense it embarrassed itself on national television Sunday night. The Chargers not only scored on its first 5 offensive drives, they didn't on the 6th drive. They attempted a field goal that was blocked hit the upright. You could argue that the upright made more stops Sunday night than Terrell Suggs did. And then on the only drive, then they scored on their next drive after that. The only drive the Chargers did not have a scoring opportunity. The final drive of the game with under a minute left, they went for it on 4th and 2 to run out the clock and were stopped. That's the only time the Ravens made a single stop an entire night against a team that was below 500.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the greatest offensive performance, not in terms of total points scored or yards generated, but in terms of just dominance, play after play after play. In their final drive, they drove 88 yards on 14 plays. They ended up kicking a field goal. 12 plays, 1 run against the Baltimore defense. It was one of the great drives of the season.
And I would argue as slim a chance as the Chargers have to make the playoffs, they play at Detroit, and then the Chargers finish up against Oakland.
Yep.
If they win both games, which they could do, they've won 3
could be a
in
fight for the AFC West title.
Could be 9-7, but they don't hold any of the tiebreakers.
Yep.
So they need Denver to lose in Buffalo this week, and they need Oakland. But they do play Oakland the last game of the season, which is interesting. From a Detroit perspective, I would argue that they have as tough a time making the playoffs, even though they're 9-5. They play San Diego this week, and then they have to play at Green Bay on New Year's Day to finish the season. Even if the Packers aren't playing for anything, the Lions might be playing for their lives.
And the Lions have been such a disappointment. You know, we joked that if they were a one-horse open sleigh, they'd only jingle half the way. You know, they started out 5-0, and they looked really good, and they were the top team in football through our stats, our indicators, and they were. They were beating up teams. They've just fallen apart, and a lot of things have gone wrong. That defense really isn't stopping anybody all of a sudden. And it's just the same old Lions, if you will. You know, people always talk about the same old Jets. And we're looking at the same old Lions where they just are, right now, are not a good team. And they still look better than the Chargers in a lot of our quality stats, a lot of our indicators, because it was so dominant through the first 5 weeks of the season. And right now, we're not seeing it. And I just don't know what to make of the Lions. I mean, you just don't know who's going to show. And Matt Stafford had a great day this week. You know, passed for 4 touchdowns, a big game.
We'll get to him coming up in our segment.
Yeah, but it's just... I just think the way the Chargers are the hot team among those two teams desperate for a playoff spot. The Chargers are the ones who right now are playing better football.
So Chargers at Detroit, the Lions are favored by 2.5. Again, we'll wait for your picks on Thursday. I think this is a pick'em game.
Based on what I'm looking at, that number makes sense. It really does, which is they usually do.
Did I say the Lions are favored by 2.5?
Yeah. I mean, that number makes sense. But, you know, we're talking about teams with flaws. You know, people talk about, you know, Ndamukong Suh being this great defensive stud. You know who's dead last right now in run defense in the NFL? The Detroit Lions. They can't stop anybody on the ground. So I think that's something that's obviously a concern for any team. And for a team that's supposed to have this great defensive front, they're just not getting it done. They're not getting it done in all phases of the game. And Stafford's been hot and cold. Where they really fell apart was when he had a finger injury and he was throwing a lot of picks. He seems to have righted that, but it may be too late for the Lions right now.